The Puppy. Making Fiends was an unfortunately short-lived Nicktoon based on a web animation created by Amy Winfrey. The show is about a girl named Charlotte moving to a town that's terrorized by another girl who, you guessed it, makes creatures called fiends, which is the German word meaning enemy. In addition to the 18 segments aired on TV, there were also 6 promotional shorts averaging roughly 30 seconds in length, that were hosted on the TurboNick website. Since the demise of TurboNick, and with the show being treated horribly by Nickelodeon, the promotional shorts quietly went away. Thankfully, all except one of them have been found. The one lost short, entitled The Puppy, only has 10 seconds of very low quality footage with no audio available.
Your wardrobe.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
But I am in good hands,
When
right?
the money runs dry, oh, you'll wish for that sport jacket.
Oh.
Are you enjoying yourself?
I am. It's a little different. It's a transition.
Right.
But it's going well.
The Daily Show Craig Kilborn episodes. The Daily Show is one of those shows that has a very storied history, and with that often comes some amount of lost media. Many people don't know the show had an original host before Jon Stewart. SportsCenter anchor Craig Kilborn actually hosted from the beginning of the show through 1998. The show's ratings didn't really take off until Jon Stewart was on, and as such, Comedy Central hasn't done a good job preserving anything before Jon Stewart. Only a handful of the over 300 episodes with Craig Kilborn are fully found, with a couple of them being partially found, including the one I just showed where Kilborn actually interviews Jon Stewart. Since most of the episodes since the beginning of Jon Stewart's tenure have been available on Comedy Central's website, this seems to be only lost due to selective preservation.
Friday's Mr. Smith going out of his tree?
He will be an ordinary orangutan again by the end of the week.
Unless Ellie can save him from going ape.
Mr. Smith. This show was a rather unique sitcom in 1983, and probably still would be if it were made today. The titular character is an orangutan who becomes an advisor to the president, which is the premise of the show. Apparently it gets explained away by the orangutan having an IQ of 256, but still, audiences had a hard time buying the premise, and generally thought the jokes got old pretty quickly. As such, the show wasn't remembered very fondly. The series was cancelled after 13 episodes, and had no home media releases. And by the time the internet became a part of common use, not enough people recorded it when it was on for it to be preserved fully. 6 full episodes exist currently, with bits and pieces of a few other episodes floating around. As well as this, all that survived of the unaired pilot to this show was the script. Eddie Retractorhead. As far as British cartoons go, it seems that they took a lot longer than the States to get rid of the gross-out trend. Eddie Retractorhead is an example of this. According to the Lost Media Wiki, the series is about a blob of mucus named Eddie falling from space and landing on a pie, and a tractor who lives in an inflatable pie at Area 52 with his friend, an orange blob named Blam Blob. As you can tell, the series thrived on stupid and random humor, and mercifully, the episodes are only about a minute in length. Currently, 6 of the 10 shorts have been found, with the other 4 probably being out there somewhere. Because of the relative obscurity, Nickelodeon UK likely won't make an official release, meaning recordings are the best hope of finding these shorts. Lord of the Rings 1978 deleted scenes. For those of you that don't know, The Lord of the Rings actually had a film made in the 1970s, which ultimately wasn't successful and the planned sequel never saw the light of day. However, even within the released film, there were quite a few deleted scenes which today are considered lost. The original ending is the only one of these scenes to not be lost, and it was ultimately changed in subsequent releases to be a better cliffhanger, as the part 2 during the production of the film was expected to come to fruition. It's estimated that roughly 12 minutes of animation was deleted from the movie, though it's unknown if this counts the scenes that were deleted in the storyboard phase. The actual amount of time could have been a lot more. Ultimately, a lot of the lost scenes can be attributed to studio meddling, which, due to the film's low budget, crippled production. Needle Mouse. This game, as you can see from the concept art, was heavily inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog. And yeah, it looks a lawsuit level similar to Sonic. However, this wasn't the reason for its cancellation, or at least it wasn't the entire reason. Development began in 2009, and later on a beta release was announced. However, this beta never came out and has had seemingly no mention since the development of the game. The game was said to be on the back burner by Defective Studios in 2012, with no reason given for the game's hiatus. All that was ever shown publicly was at a few conferences, and the screenshots on the internet. No playable version was ever made publicly available, and likely never will.
Hey guys, let's have sex from a T-Rex!
There's hot love on your head!
Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island pilot. I mentioned this pilot in episode 17, as it was an interesting case. It was a rather obscure show that aired in the mid-2000s that's only sort of known for how it ripped off SpongeBob. Footage from the unaired pilot allegedly came from 2 deleted YouTube poops. At the time, it was unknown how the YouTube pooper even managed to get the footage from the pilot, as the pilot had to be available at some point for the person to pull the footage from, right? Well, actually no. Apparently this footage was sourced from a promo for the series, which has been uncovered. Obviously it's not the full pilot and the search isn't completely finished, but this was still a monumental find.
When you are talking coconut with the power of creation, life becomes a whole lot easier.
Now that's what I'm talking about!
For one, whatever you want.
Silly head game!
Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Campaign Mode. A few months ago, some information was leaked about Black Ops 4. The game was panned by some for not featuring a campaign mode. This actually wasn't the original plan though, and there's some evidence to suggest it got scrapped pretty late in development. There was actually quite a huge leak of concept art. According to IGN, the story would take place in 2070, and players would choose to fight for either the World United Nations or the Free People's Army. There were apparently different plot threads and possibilities for the story, resulting in small decisions having a massive impact on the ending, as well as DLC planned to be released later on. Treyarch eventually scrapped the campaign out of fear that such an ambitious project would delay the release, and as such, the concept materials are the only materials left from this game mode. Where are they now? I've discussed plenty of VH1 series on this channel because they, for some reason, have a high propensity to end up lost. And here's another example of that. Where Are They Now is a series that looks at the past celebrities of music and TV and updates on what they've done since the thing they were most famous for. The name of the series is quite ironic because the thing people are asking is, where is it now? The show had basically no home media release and was pretty much only aired during the 5-year period where new episodes were being made. That was between 1999 and 2004, and because YouTube wasn't around, the show wasn't preserved via the internet. Of the 55 episodes, only a couple are completely found, with the rest having only sporadic clips available or being lost entirely.
And an entire album side refused to be tamed.
It kept getting longer and longer and longer as time went on, and it's probably good that we recorded it when we did, because before we were finished it was a good half hour long in our performances.
Appunto lo scotto dell'inesperienza. Le immagini stanno per partire, vi saluto, arrivederci a domenica prossima.
Yep, I'm doing another unidentified song. The haters can suck on a fat one. This song was shown on an Italian sports program and played over the outro. No one knows the title, no one knows the artist, and the best guess we have is that it was produced sometime in the 1980s. It's unknown why an Italian program would use an English song for its outro, and why it would use such an obscure one, as no record company has claimed it under Content ID for any YouTube video uploads of the song. The song is a complete mystery. No one seems to even recognize the voice singing. If you have any leads about what this could be, they're always appreciated in the comments. GameMate. In the 1990s, after the success of the Game Boy, the handheld video game craze was in full effect. Some systems like the Game Gear were very successful in this vein. However, others, such as the Gamecom and what this entry will be about, the GameMate, fell into obscurity. While the original manufacturer was Bitcorp, they eventually went bankrupt and sold the rights to United Microelectronics Corporation, abbreviated as UMC. At this point, support for the GameMate was cut off for the most part outside of China. A good portion of the games for this system have been preserved, but some are still lost, however, and a sizable portion of the games lost are not even confirmed to actually exist. Complicating this even more is that the gray cartridges are different from the black ones, as they contain additional content. Pop-Tarts' Crazy Good World. Sometime after Pop-Tarts launched their new branding with the slogan Crazy Good, their website's branding changed with it. This new branding added flash games to the website that the user could play. The game section of the website went back and forth through a series of different names such as Game-A-Rama and Fun and Games, but that's relatively unimportant compared to the games themselves. Only one of the 13 games from the website has survived, and even it was lost for some time. After the website rebranded once again in 2010, the games went with it. The other 12 are still lost to this day. While the web pages for those games are still reachable through the Wayback Machine, the games themselves have no way of being played.
This is Jamie. He's 6 years old. He likes books and football. He also happens to be one of the smartest people in America. On January 13th, this amazing child prodigy will out-answer PhDs and Ivy League professors.
This is a tough question. I can name every single one right now.
And win his family life-changing money. Some very smart adults are about to feel really stupid.
It'd be difficult to answer this question.
Oh, come on.
Our Little Genius premieres Wednesday, January 13th on Fox.
Our Little Genius. In 2010, Fox was set to air a new game show called Our Little Genius. The premise was that a child contestant would answer 10 questions, increasing in difficulty and money value. The child was also given 2 lifelines which would allow either the child's parents or a panel of experts to help them answer the question. Just like on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the contestant could stop the game at any point and keep the money they've already earned. Though, with this show, it was the parents' choice to do so, not the child's. The show never aired due to allegations of cheating. Allegedly, a person involved in production gave one of the kids answers to 4 questions. Because of this, the show was pulled a week before it was supposed to premiere, and the show was lost in its entirety apart from a promo. The FCC launched an investigation into the show in 2010, but the findings are unknown. Pokemon PC Master. In 2006, an educational PC game was released called Pokemon PC Master. Developed by Umbrella and published by the Pokemon Company, the game taught basic internet skills such as typing and browsing the internet. At one point the game had a website, which no longer exists, though it is still viewable through the Wayback Machine. The game's disc has been found, and even ISOs of the disc are floating around on the internet, but because the game required a subscription service to be played, and because that subscription service is no longer supported, the game itself is lost.
Hey, I'm Noah. You may not know me, but you will, because I'm going places. See, I've got a plan.
Hey, Noah! Way to go on winning class president! You deserve it, man.
Thanks, Joey. See, I got smarts, and that's what wins in the end. Trust me. I got this one in the bag.
Total Drama exclusive clips. Total Drama episodes each have their own ending clip called an exclusive clip, or a bonus clip. These were usually short skits that went with the accompanying episodes. These clips are mostly accounted for, but a handful of them are lost. Throughout Total Drama's run, most of them have been preserved in some way. However, 2 from the original season are lost. One of them was about Izzy telling a scary story that ends up making Heather vomit, and the other was an ad for the chef's Roadkill Cafe. The other 4 lost clips are technically found in video form, as they're camera recordings of the Polish and Italian dubs respectively. The English versions of those 4 clips are still lost, however. In total, there are 6 lost clips, spread across 3 seasons of the show. Karma Studios. Karma Studios was a Dutch video game development company founded in 1998. They had many financial issues which made it tough for them to get off the ground. Their specialty was portable games, specifically Game Boy Color games. Only one of their games ever got a release. 8 games were produced to completion but never released due to the financial issues the company was having, and 3 games were still in the concept stage allegedly, and how far in the production cycle those games got is unknown to this day. Of the 11 unreleased games, the ROM to one of them has been found. The other 10 are lost completely. Johnny Test: The Lost Web Series. In 2019, WildBrain released a teaser announcing a return of Johnny Test to air on YouTube that following year. As well as this, promotional videos were uploaded to that channel in the coming months to build hype. The first short was uploaded in May of 2020, and shortly after this it was privated, with none of the rest of the shorts being released. In total there were 15, and thanks to IMDb, people were able to find the titles of the missing episodes. To this day, aside from the first episode, one other episode, and part of another are the only things that have been recovered from the series. It's unknown why none of the other episodes got an official release, and why all the other videos were privated. It should be noted that none of the voice talent from the original Johnny Test returned to be in these new shorts. Perhaps legal issues complicated any kind of release. Either way, it's highly unlikely that any of the unreleased shorts will ever get a proper official release. Equals 3. In this search, quite a lot of ground has been covered since I last talked about this in episode 1. Since we last covered Equals 3, new episodes have become lost and found, and even some episodes have become found a second time. In July of 2021, there were 5 lost episodes. Today there are 5, but that's only because 2 episodes have become newly lost, compensating for the 2 episodes that have since been found in the last 13 months. The episodes Your Perverted Dad and Super Mullet have been found, and the episodes Dog vs. Lion and Friday the 13th have become lost in that time. Interestingly, Friday the 13th was the final episode of the show aired in 2016, and it's unknown how and why those episodes have vanished. The volatility of this search makes it imperative for people to keep searching for leads, as it's very likely new episodes could become lost again at any point.
So welcome to a special Saturday edition of Why Would You Put That on the Internet? This is Why Would You Put That on the Internet 63 Take 2. There are a few errors in the original one last night that I just figured, hey, I might as well just reshoot the whole thing.
Why Would You Put That on the Internet? Episode 63 Original Version. Rob Dyke, who later changed his name to Rob Gavigan, used to put out a series called Why Would You Put That on the Internet, which was essentially a series of user-submitted content where Rob would make fun of the stupid things people put on the internet. The 63rd episode of the series was uploaded and shortly taken down and reshot after one of the featured submissions was a fake article that the author never really wrote. Rob took down the original version to keep the author from getting harassed about something she didn't write. Apparently the other submissions used in the video never got recycled in the reshot version, meaning the original version of episode 63 was made of entirely new content not seen in the original version. Because of the reason the original episode was taken down, it's unlikely to see the light of day. Batgirl. After the recent Warner Bros. Discovery merger, some projects were cancelled. None of them were as shocking or as important as the Batgirl movie, however. The movie finished being taped in March of 2022, and was cancelled during post-production. This essentially means that the new Batgirl movie was nearly finished and will go down as one of the most expensive film cancellations in history. Warner Bros. Leadership reportedly didn't like the direction the movie was going, And due to streaming releases of films being more and more frowned upon, and with Marvel movies bringing in more and more money, the Batgirl movie reportedly didn't compete in that regard. Combine that with the fact that test screening results were less than positive, and this ends up being a movie that will never see the light of day, making this one of the most transparent and visible examples of intentional lost media of all time. Tic-Tac-Toe mobile game. While the game show Tic-Tac-Toe is well known, the mobile game based on it obviously isn't. Developed by SkyZone Mobile, the object is to place X's and O's on a 3x3 grid by answering questions and get 3 in a straight line. The game was developed for a number of mobile platforms such as iOS, Java, BlackBerry, and Brew. The release was in 2009, and sometime after that the game became unavailable. No one knows when it happened, but a playable version of the game hasn't surfaced since this happened. All that exists of the game are some screenshots and some footage here and there on YouTube. As well as the game, the status of SkyZone Mobile itself seems to be unknown, as SkyZone Mobile never released any games after this and has just quietly vanished. Pudding Toast. Very little is known about this lost Nickelodeon pilot. It was pitched in 2012 by Daniel Chong, who would later go on to create We Bare Bears. In the only tweet about this project, Chong states that he intends to release the pilot, but at the moment he hasn't done so. The tweet includes a piece of concept art from the pilot, which is the only concrete piece of the pilot that's been released. From the looks of it, perhaps it was a show with some horror elements and set pieces, similar to Billy and Mandy. Chong later went on to say that the pilot was in the process of being picked up, and the executive that picked up the pilot got replaced, so the concept was shelved by Nickelodeon. Family Fortunes. In Britain, they never had Family Feud the way a lot of other countries did. Their version of the game was called Family Fortunes, as the name Family Feud sounded too negative. The rules in the British version are essentially the same as the American version, but in terms of preservation, this version was not preserved as well as the American version. In a lot of 20th century game shows, the practice of taping over old episodes to make new ones was very common. Combining this with some other quirks such as Les Dennis's final season not having 14 episodes be aired, and quite a bit of the show is lost. A bulk release of these episodes is very unlikely, so recovering recordings one by one would be the only chance at preserving the entire show.
Beer. How much would you be willing to pay for a beer at the ballpark? $6, $8, $10? Well, what if it was 10 cents? That happened in Cleveland 40 years ago this week when one such promotion went terribly wrong.
1974 Rangers vs. Indians baseball game. Better known as the 10-cent beer night game, from a PR perspective, this is probably a game the MLB wants to keep hidden. Given the high tensions from a brawl earlier in the season with these two teams involving fans throwing food onto the Cleveland Indians players, allowing 10-cent beers for this specific matchup would only ignite tensions once more. In this game, there were 2 separate instances of fans running onto the field and flashing everyone, and eventually, fans got into a more chaotic state as the night went on. Things were thrown on the field, and eventually fans rushed the field and descended into fights with the players. Footage of this game is incredibly rare due to the controversy, and considering how uncommon it was for baseball games to air on TV at the time, it's unlikely anyone is in possession of a recording.
Come on, Gats. I've got to lay down these lyrics right now, cause otherwise I'll just forget them.
Blood and Guts. Very little is known about this short. Supposedly it's one in a series of interstitial shorts aired on Nickelodeon sometime in the 2000s. From the voice acting, it can be assumed that it was made in the UK, but other than that, details of its production are unknown. While the short you're seeing has obviously surfaced, how many more, or even if there are more of these, is unknown, especially for its production value. Nickelodeon hasn't really acknowledged this in any way, and the only reason people think it's from Nickelodeon is word of mouth. It's worth noting that shorts with a similar animation style and voice acting have surfaced from MTV, but it's unknown if they're related. If there even are more shorts, they're lost. Bookworm Heroes. In April of 2013, PopCap released the final title in the Bookworm franchise for iOS. The game was called Bookworm Heroes, and it was a turn-based online multiplayer fighting game where the object was to spell longer words to drain more health from your opponent. The game actually had multiple playable characters, which was a first for the franchise, and players could customize their strategies with different power-ups to go along with the strengths of each character. The game unfortunately never caught on and was taken off the App Store in 2014, and with it went any traces of the game. Obviously there isn't a playable version of the game, and the only people that could play it are people who had the game downloaded on their Apple devices. But even with that, there's a surprising lack of footage of the game online, as I was only able to find a couple of videos. And even if a playable version of the game were to surface, it's unlikely that the online servers would still function. Ah Real Monsters Pilot. As far as Lost Pilots go, the Ah Real Monsters pilot has been highly sought after for a long time. The pilot supposedly follows the same plot as the first episode, as a lot of TV pilots typically do, but this is far from being confirmed by any credible source. A few changes were made to the final show from the pilot, such as the Gromble's name being the Womble, and other various changes that haven't been confirmed. Supposedly, according to Rugrat Online, it was a 6-minute long episode titled Monsters Get Real, but it's unknown how credible this is since Rugrat Online is not an official source. Some screenshots have surfaced, but aside from some clips in a Nickelodeon promo, there is no footage of the Lost pilot anywhere else. Sonic Cafe. Sonic Cafe was a mobile game service released by Sega in Japan in 2001 and discontinued in 2007. The service would cost 315 yen per month, or a little over $2 in American money, and users could select from dozens of games playable through the service. Many of these games were Sonic and Puyo Puyo themed, as those tended to be the most popular Sega franchises available through the service. Only a couple of those games are found, however, as preservation of mobile games has been pretty lackluster. An overwhelming majority of the games available are completely lost, and a few of the lucky games have screenshots available, but that is it. Voodoo Heartbeat. Voodoo Heartbeat was a 1973 horror film about a youth serum which turns a scientist into a bloodthirsty creature with fangs. While both looking simultaneously like a vampire and a werewolf, the only references to this creature refer to him as a beast. This was lead actor Mike Zapata's only film role, although he was supposedly involved in a sequel that never ended up being made. There have been no VHS or DVD releases of this film, and as a result, very few materials from this film are available, including some ads and a trailer. The first Wikipedia edit ever. On January 15, 2001, Wikipedia was created. At the time, it was still revolutionary that a user-edited site could function as well as it did. On that day, there are 2 edits claimed to be the first ones ever made to the site. One by an anonymous user saying, "This is the new Wikipedia," which co-founder Jimmy Wales claims isn't actually the site's first edit. The other one, which Wales claims is the real first Wikipedia edit, was him saying, "Hello World." It's unknown which of these was the first real Wikipedia edit, however, it's general consensus that Wales just misremembered the first edit as one he made on Wikipedia's predecessor, Nupedia. There's not much evidence corroborating Wales' claim that he made the first Wikipedia edit, as the edit history of the homepage sides with the claim that the anonymous user made the first real edit. If Wales' first edit was actually real, it's entirely lost now. Class of 96. For many Lost Media YouTubers, it's almost a rite of passage that something like this would happen. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Class of 96 was a drama series that aired on Fox in 1993. The show was about students at a fictional Ivy League university who would deal with relatable challenges and dealt with various issues and were from various different backgrounds. The show was planned to follow the characters until graduation, but ultimately this never happened because the ratings were not high enough to keep the show going, as the time slot was at the same time as more established popular shows such as Full House. The show became obscure as a result of that. The literal day after I uploaded episode 27, where I talked about this show originally, 8 episodes became found, meaning that now only the last 4 episodes are lost. Who knows, maybe through some kind of luck the rest of the show will be found tomorrow, instantly outdating this video. The Real Match Game Story, Behind the Blank. This documentary was completely lost for some time, as there was a YouTube upload in the mid-2010s which was the only copy of it available. It was later deleted, most likely for copyright reasons. The documentary goes through the history of the show, complete with interviews with people involved. That is, if you can see them. The documentary was re-uploaded to YouTube and Internet Archive in terrible quality. Technically, it is found, but not in any way you'd actually want to watch. The max quality is 240p, which is abysmal. For reference, the Porgy and Bess movie generally isn't considered lost by the lost media community because it's available in 480p. The search for a higher quality version of this documentary will be very tough, as it only aired on the Game Show Network a few times in the mid-2000s, and there doesn't seem to be much demand considering the fact that not many people know about its existence. Dream Chasers. Dream Chasers was an Epcot attraction that was around in the early 2000s. It was essentially a show where 2 animated characters showed the viewer various environments and showcased how GM developed their vehicles, as well as future GM production. The show was unpopular as it seemed to only exist to promote GM and for no other reason. Because of this, the idea was shelved in 2004 and replaced with a different show with the same name, until ultimately being shelved entirely after that. There have been no recordings of the event that have surfaced online, and it's very unlikely that Disney would bring this attraction back, meaning that it's got an almost certain chance of remaining lost.
He's a phantom. A kid whose life has changed, molecules rearranged, ghosts are so deranged. He's gonna catch a focus, steady phantom, spirits don't stand a chance. Senses all enhanced, power so advanced.
Danny Phantom Original Intro. The mid-2000s Nickelodeon series Danny Phantom was not originally intended to have the classic hip-hop theme we all know and love, but instead the one you just heard. You can find animatics of the original intro sequence with the audio of the original theme song, as both have been readily available for a while, and I do think they made the right decision. Most rapping theme songs are terrible, but in this case I think it was easily the better choice. The footage from the original intro, however, has been difficult to find. There have been bits and pieces of footage here and there in promos, and one singular screenshot is available, but outside of those materials there isn't anything else. Also, fun fact, the YouTube video of the animatic has the word cool in all caps in the URL. That probably doesn't matter, but I don't care, I thought I would share it.
They had a certain something.
Jay had the talent to be somebody.
Practice, never reenact this. The simple fact is I'm real good at this.
They chased one goal relentlessly.
He always knew what he wanted to do, and he always knew that he could do it.
Driven. Here we have another lost VH1 music documentary series, in VH1's Driven. The concept behind this show was relatively simple. Each episode would focus on a famous person, either a TV personality or a musician, and detail their road to stardom, hence the name Driven. In the vein of Behind the Music, each episode focused on a different artist or group, and also in the vein of Behind the Music, its preservation was not handled very well. Of the 62 total episodes, 26 are found in full, with various bits and pieces of other episodes being available, with 18 episodes being completely lost. Because it's unlikely for episodes to be released officially, over 2 decades later, this search will most likely be completed in the form of VHS findings. That is, if it ever happens. Restaurant City. Restaurant City was a Facebook game that launched in 2009, with the premise of managing a restaurant if you couldn't guess by the title. This management was down to the very minute details as well. You could decorate your restaurant and upgrade it to include things such as functioning toilets and even hiring employees. As well as this, there was an interactive element, being a Facebook game and all, as you could pick up trash off the floor of your friend's restaurant. Yeah, as you can see, this was kind of a weird game, and it's now lost, as it just sort of quietly went away in 2012. There was a Russian version released in 2016 which had some changes made, and is believed to be an older version of the game before its international release. As of now, only a few gameplay videos exist, as well as an upload of the game's soundtrack. The Grubs. This show was based on the British sitcom The Grimleys and was planned to release in 2002. It's about a blue-collar Pennsylvania family in the 70s. Gee, an early 2000s sitcom that takes place in the northern US in the 70s. How original. I joke, but honestly, aside from the surface level, this show really has nothing in common with that 70s show. The show had some problems during production, as it was originally planned to have a 13-episode season, which was later changed to 8 to cut costs. And 2 days before it was set to release on Fox, it was cut from the schedule as the critical reception bombed. As a result, the show never officially aired, and the pilot has been the only episode of this show to be recovered. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Death of Sirius Black unmuted scene. In this film in the Harry Potter series, there's an unconfirmed lost edit made that's theorized to exist by fans. Director David Yates said in an interview that the death of Sirius Black was slowed down on purpose in order to get more emotion out of it. But the scene is also silent, meaning that the edit could have been added to the scene for the same effect. If that's the case, and the muting of the scene wasn't due to a microphone issue, that means that the original audio of the scene could be out there somewhere. Fans have speculated that due to a death in Daniel Radcliffe's family before the taping of that scene, that the scream contained within was too painful sounding to include in the film. There's very little evidence that the audio exists, but if it does, it's unlikely to get any kind of release. Bryant and May Matches. In 1896, Burt Akers made a short film called Bryant and May Matches, which was intended to sell matches made by the titular company. There's no consensus on what the contents of the short were, but what's generally accepted is that this short film was the first commercial ever produced. According to film historian Peter Domonkovich, this commercial was not preserved particularly well, as Burt Akers simply didn't care about preservation as much as the other, more well-known filmmakers of the time. It's believed that something like a commercial was seen as a lot more disposable than a typical short film, and thus this piece of history is now lost. King Facebook Games. King is a Maltese game publisher most well known for the Candy Crush series. There are very many games they made in the 2010s decade for the Facebook platform that are now lost, as gaming through Facebook and honestly, Facebook itself is pretty much dying. After support for Flash pretty much ended in 2020, these games were converted to HTML5, meaning the Flash versions became lost. Quite a lot of footage of these games exist, as well as some concept materials for games that never saw a release, but there is no completely found Facebook game today, and some of them aren't even confirmed to exist. Some games like the Flash version of Candy Crush do have the Chinese version of the game available, but in the case of that specific one, it was never archived. Flashpoints is not an exhaustive database after all. For some of these Flash games, the only way you can relive them is by watching videos of them on YouTube. Pokemon 4D Pikachu's Ocean Adventure. This short was one of the many Pikachu shorts released as part of the Pokemon Mega franchise. While this short's predecessor is readily available, the sequel is not. The short film was shown in 4D, which is a film experience similar to 3D, plus added seat motion. The plot involved Pikachu getting a treasure map from a Chatot, which he goes on an adventure trying to find the treasure. The film got limited release in Japan in 2006, and eventually was shown at a theater in Massachusetts. In 2017 and 2020, there were a couple of screenings, but outside of that, this film hasn't been seen by anyone. and as of now, there's some footage available on YouTube, but that's all that's available.
What's that there? Hey, that's a treasure map. That's a treasure map. That's a treasure map. That's a treasure map.
Pop-Up Video. Pop-Up Video was a VH1 series that aired from 1996 to 2002. The show was a curation of music videos that would have various trivia facts about the music video or the artist pop up on the screen as they went on, giving the name Pop-Up Video. The idea has been done on various networks before, but this version of it in particular caught on with viewers. In addition to the normal compilations, several themed episodes were made. In total, there were over 200 episodes compiled, and very few of them exist today. A new version did air on VH1 Classic in 2011 and 2012, but even recognizing there are more recent airings to find, a lot of the material is still lost. The way this search has gone, it seems more beneficial to find the music videos individually rather than the full episodes, but either way, most of the episodes of this are lost. Super Nick on the Steps with. This, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, was a Dutch show that aired on Nickelodeon in the late 2000s. It was a spin-off of another show called Super Nick, which is also lost. The hosts Patrick Martins and Terrence Chores would visit kids and inquire about the sports they played. Rough estimates place the total number of episodes at 36, but only 4 episodes are found. Since the compilation episode has been found in full, short snippets from a lot of the lost episodes can be seen, but aside from that, this has a long way to go before it's found. On the Nick Netherlands website, 2 screenshots of missing episodes have been found, but many of the lost episodes have no footage or screenshots available. And perhaps I'll talk about the main show in another video. Press Your Luck British version. Americans know the game Press Your Luck as one of the most iconic game shows on American TV. But in the 90s, Britain tried their hand at making their own version of the show, to diminishing returns. The new version aired on HTV in 1991, hosted by Paul Koya. The show was described by many as a lower-budget version of the original show, even including smaller prize money. Viewership of this version kept going down until its time slot eventually got moved. The show was even renewed for a second season and had its time slot moved again to try to salvage any kind of viewer base the show could have had. It just wasn't popular with British audiences, and because of that, the preservation was lacking. There's no footage or screenshots of any episodes, and the total number of episodes is unknown.
Wednesday on Good Times, Thelma takes off
I am moving out!
and takes on more roommates than she can handle. And speaking of roommates, meet Vinny and Raymond, the new odd couple, as domestic bliss goes busting loose right after Good Times. Tomorrow night on CBS.
Busting Loose. Busting Loose was a sitcom that aired on CBS in 1977. The sitcom was about a Jewish man that moves out of his parents' house and into an apartment in New York City. Eventually, he also gets a job at a shoe store to make more money. While the concept might be mundane, the show managed to get 2 seasons, though they both aired in a single calendar year. The first 8 episodes of the show are found, and the rest of the episodes, including the entire second season, are lost. The last 4 episodes of the second season never made it to air, and the plot synopses of those episodes are completely unknown. Fortunately, every episode title is known, but because of how the show came out so long ago, it's unlikely to be found, and it's unlikely there are many people involved in search efforts for the show.
Choose it out. Oh, no. You take the first shot, please. Man your battle station. I'm here. Smile.
Don't you mean laugh?
The Adventures of Pinocchio. This movie was an attempt at creating the first feature-length cel-animated movie, even before Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The movie would have also been Italy's first animated movie had it been finished. The Italian studio CAIR was commissioned to make the movie at a budget of £1 million. The movie was a production nightmare, however. They used comic book artists to do the animation, and essentially the entire team had to teach themselves the entire process of animation. There were many problems with the animation of the movie, and ultimately production ended when the budget ran out. Many of the production materials, as a result, are lost. There are certain theories as to why the movie was scrapped outside of these reasons, but the only one I feel is worth mentioning is that Walt Disney sabotaged production so he could buy the remaining materials. There's very little evidence that this happened, but if it's true, then Disney could have a copy of the partial finished movie in their archives.
Tonight's King of the Hill episode is brought to you by Hotel Ireland. We're not that kind of hotel anymore. King of the Hill is brought to you by Adult Swim. And by Skittles. Taste the rainbow.
Adult Swim King of the Hill bumpers. In 2011, during airings of King of the Hill, the bumpers would be sponsored ads of made-up companies and occasionally real ones such as Lowe's. These bumpers were typically no more than 10 seconds in length, and were only made for King of the Hill airings, as there were no versions of these made for other Adult Swim shows. Many of these aired between 2011 and 2014, and after that period of time they were never seen again. A good number of these are found and can be viewed online, but it's unknown what percentage of these are lost. YouTuber Swim History uploaded several from 2014, and YouTuber Jeff All Luck No Skill managed to get 10 of them on his channel. YouTuber Jaden Squared has quite a few of these on his channel, but it's unknown how many of these are lost that he doesn't have. There doesn't seem to be a complete list on how many of these were made.
Mario.
Grab your board, hold on to your hat. Satellite surfing is where it's at the club. Club Mario.
Club Mario. In 1990, the live-action episodes of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show were replaced with something called Club Mario. It centered around two Mario-obsessed teenagers whose comedy and overall design was made to pander to kids, but unfortunately it did the exact opposite. Club Mario was very unpopular with viewers, and as a result, drove the ratings down considerably. 16 of the 65 episodes produced and aired are found in full, whereas only 18 minutes of one of the episodes is found. The rest are completely lost. Dick Entertainment completely wiped the master tapes of all but one of the episodes, which was released on DVD, so don't hold your breath for any kind of official release either. Fishhooks pilot. In 2009, the pilot to the Disney series Fishhooks was produced by Alex Hirsch and William Rice. The pilot looks very similar to the final version aside from some differences in character designs and the title, which could have possibly been Fishtails originally. Only 5 seconds of footage has been found from a Latin American promo. That footage is the only thing keeping the pilot from being completely lost. It's known that there's a copy in the Library of Congress, but the Library of Congress also lists the Fishhooks pilot as part of Shorty McShort Shorts, which it obviously wasn't. Unless Disney or the creators release the pilot themselves, it most likely won't be found. The Southern Television Hijacking. One of the most infamous TV hijackings in history, this was a broadcast distortion of the UHF video dubbed over by a message from someone who called themselves Vrillon. The message was designed to be ominous and invoked the fear of aliens hijacking the earthly broadcast signals, as Vrillon described himself as part of an intergalactic association. For many years, a video floated around which was supposedly of the hijacking, however, it was proven to be fake. The audio is available online, but the video is lost. Supposedly after the hijacking ended, the broadcast went straight to a Looney Tunes cartoon. Because of the fact that the footage is lost, that's unverifiable. It's unknown if anyone saved a recording of the footage, and thus, if video of the hijacking ever existed in the first place. Prank Patrol. Prank Patrol was a series that aired in Canada on the channel YTV between 2005 and 2010. The show was about the host Andy and a team of ninjas helping children pull pranks on people. Since the show was moderately successful and had 4 seasons, it's amazing to see how much of it has become lost, since there was no home media release, and limited TV airings outside of Canada. While all of Seasons 1 and 2 have been found, all of Season 3 is lost, and less than 3 minutes of combined footage from 2 Season 4 episodes have been found, with the rest of Season 4 being lost. The episodes from the first 2 seasons were regularly aired in reruns on BBC Kids, but since Season 3 and 4 never got reruns after 2013, their lost status will likely remain until someone finds a recording.
My favorite part was when the big cake blew up and it went like everywhere. I really liked how he was just like all crazy and fell back in the chair, and yeah, it was pretty funny.
Do You Trust Me? Do You Trust Me was a game show produced in 2007 and set to air on CBS that year. According to host Tucker Carlson, yes, you heard that right, only 6 episodes were produced. The concept of the game show is quite complicated and essentially combines elements from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Greed, and Friend or Foe. Players would team up and answer multiple choice questions to build up cash in a trust fund, which would later be decided if the players would keep playing the game, steal all the winnings, or split them. There's a lot of strategy involved in predicting what the other person would pick and whether or not they could be trusted. None of the actual episodes have been uploaded or aired anywhere. The only footage that exists is a 4-minute long demo reel.
This is a game of skill, chance, and trust. Right now, you're just 12 questions away from up to $2 million. In the television series Happy Days, what actor played the Fonz? Who was the first astronaut to set foot on the moon? Which sitcom aired first?
On Trial. On Trial was a 1928 film adaptation of a popular Broadway play from 14 years prior. 2 versions were released fairly close to each other, a silent version and a sound version. The plot is rather mysterious and vague, as all the information available is that it's about a man who is charged with murdering his best friend and the trial for said case. No character names are known, and no information about the plot beyond that is available. Some stills and a trailer for the film exist, and the soundtrack is said to exist at the UCLA Film Archive, but beyond that, the full film is lost. Tortellini Western. Tortellini Western, a play on words of the film industry term spaghetti western, was a series of animated shorts that aired on Nicktoons Network in 2004. The shorts employed the use of low-budget flash animation and crude toilet humor, and as a result were critically panned. Despite this, they were known for airing on the network quite often. Even though that may be the case, as with a lot of interstitial material, it was not preserved very well. 6 out of the 13 shorts are available, with one of the found shorts being a camera recording of a TV screen. That number was 7, but one of the shorts uploaded to YouTube has now been privated. Ukulele Wii U version. In 2015, a Kickstarter launched for a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and it was to be developed by former Rare employees. Fan excitement was palpable, as it only took half an hour for the Kickstarter to reach its goal, and in the end, over £2 million was raised for the project. It was planned for a litany of systems including the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Mac, PC, Linux, and one platform that it never made it to, the Wii U. The Wii U version's cancellation was announced in December of 2016, as the focus was to make a version of the game for the Switch. As the game was released in spring of 2017, the Switch version came out that December, and the Wii U version will only live on as an abandoned idea.
It's exploitative. It's sensational. It appeals to your basest instincts, and you're gonna watch every minute of it. Introducing Hurl, a bold new take on reality TV. 5 contestants enter an intense eating challenge, then stomach-churning test of stamina. The last one to blow groceries wins a cool grand. You're gonna love it, even if you pretend you don't. Hurl premieres July 15th, only on G4.
Hurl. In 2008, at a time when G4 was transitioning its content away from the specific gaming angle, a show was made called Hurl. The show was a game show involving contestants eating obscene amounts of food and then riding carnival rides while trying not to vomit the food they ate. It was a very cutthroat game show, as competitors would fake vomit to try to get their opponent to do it for real. If the contestant ended up not hurling, they'd win $1,000. The show was critically panned for obvious reasons and didn't last long. Today, only 2 episodes are found, along with 5 minutes of footage from the first episode. The rest of the show is lost. Dastardly and Muttley, Operation Pigeon Pursuit. This video game was a planned Wacky Races game for the PlayStation 2. Developer Blast Entertainment planned the game for a 2007 release, eventually narrowed down to be released on June 28th of that year. However, Blast later changed the release date on their website to January of 2008 before removing the date altogether, eventually delisting the game. No information about what kind of game it would have been or how it would function was ever known. In fact, to this day, 0 screenshots of the game have surfaced. It's possible the game was cancelled due to the PS2 becoming an outdated piece of hardware, but no reason was ever given for why the game was cancelled. All that remains today is the cover art. Dragon King: The Fighting Game. Super Smash Bros. Wasn't always supposed to start out as a fighting game crossover between different Nintendo franchises. From its conception, it was originally going to be a fighting game called Dragon King. The gameplay of the original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 is obviously ripped from this previous version. The notable difference is obviously the playable characters, which were nondescript humanoid bodies. These humanoid bodies were speculated to be the original models that evolved into Captain Falcon's model used in the actual game. Obviously, Dragon King is lost, as it lives on in the form of Super Smash Bros., and it will most likely never see the light of day. The Club. Designed to be sort of an MMO for a younger demographic, this game was created by Nickelodeon. The Club allowed users to create and customize their own character, visit locations in actual Nickelodeon shows, and even post on the message boards. While the beta was used by 3 million people in 2006, the actual game came out in 2007, used by about 7 million people under the name Nicktropolis. However, the Club name only began use in 2010 and had a graphical redesign going from 3D to 2D. This game was eventually taken down, and by 2014, Nick.com's rebrand dictated the end of the Club. And to this day, all that exists are a few screenshots.
Crazy Steve's gone berserk!
Crazy Steve?
Who else?
Well, it's Monday. You can't schedule Crazy Steve to work on a Monday.
Monday's his bad day.
Drake and Josh widescreen episodes. Drake and Josh episodes in Season 1 were shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio. However, Seasons 2 through 4 have a complicated history of the format they're most commonly viewed. Upon first airing, every episode of Drake and Josh was aired in a 4:3 aspect ratio, as TV broadcasts were analog up until 2009. Since Drake and Josh ended in 2007, this means the opportunities to air seasons 2 through 4 episodes in the 16:9 aspect ratio were limited. It is theorized that Nickelodeon has widescreen versions of every episode from seasons 2 to 4. The only problem is that they only air these in sporadic clips on their YouTube channels and maybe occasionally in reruns. As of now, the only full episodes that exist in widescreen are from Season 4, with Season 2 and 3 only having certain clips in widescreen. Perhaps Nickelodeon will rerun every episode in widescreen, but until that day comes, we're stuck with the clips that are available right now.
Excuse me, but who are you?
Were you invited to this party?
Ah!